Welcome to the summer series of the Tuck Shop Podcast, everybody. I'm still Matt Cernell.
Still Dave Janicek, last checked.
How you doing, David?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Good. So, summer series, I'm gonna keep harping every single week. Thank you, Betsy Martinelli, for coming up with this idea. It's actually a really cool
Executive
one.
Producer.
Executive
Betsy
Producer, yes.
Martinelli.
So, really the biggest thing I think we want to keep harping on while we have a chance to talk here a little bit is our Pirates game coming up.
Sure. Absolutely. Getting closer.
Pittsburgh's taking on the Diamondbacks, July 25th, 6:40 first pitch. It's been let's call it an up and down season for the last 40 years for the Pirates.
Yeah. Since 1987.
But a couple weeks ago, you had the picture of you guys after finals.
Yeah.
And I saw the Pirates shirt. I said that was they had a great season that
No,
year.
that
So
wasn't
you
it, but that was my varsity Pitt Johnstown jacket.
No, the guy next to you had
Oh,
a
yeah,
Pirates.
Len, from Maryland.
Yeah.
It was like from Maryland, I think. Yeah,
But that was a really good season, so maybe you guys should get back together and take a class or two up here.
There you
and
go.
Help them out.
Maybe that was the weird thing about that picture was, I don't remember. It was after finals '88. I can't remember. I was told it was, I can't remember if it was after January finals or in the spring.
It seemed like there was snow.
That doesn't matter, though, because there could have been snow.
True.
Right, there could have
been
That's
snow.
not the same thing, my man. I was like CSI in this, like there's snow in the background. There's snow in the picture. It has to be January. Then I'm like, nah, I do remember that we can get snow up till June or July here in Johnstown. So, yeah. Gonna have to ask Ed Bradley next time I see him which
one was that?
Which semester was that? But it was after, I can tell you that. I can definitely tell you that.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. But no, the Pirates game's coming up. The link is in the description below. And it's going to be a really great time. People are signing up. So come on out. Join us, the UPJ crowd here at the ballpark, and it'll be it's always a fun time. Last year was really cool, and
come on down. Fun for the whole family.
It'll be good. So we are now kind of middle of June. I mean, campus is still weird with no one around.
Yeah, but it is weird.
Yeah.
I'll go with that.
It's all quiet here. Don't turn the lights on in the office. But no, it's been a good summer. Hopefully everyone's kind of starting to get in the role of the summer series here. We do have events coming up in the fall, little targeted because of the groups that are involved. But I think first off is education. Education, I want to talk about. Education's doing a really cool brunch event.
And that came the neat thing about that is it came out of the 50-year anniversary event we did. And that went so well that the education department said, and I say this at every reunion, and, we're working on some things, hopefully, from the media reunion. Let's continue this. Let's not meet every 50 years or every 5 years. And that event, if you remember, it came out of Charlene and Dr. Ledney's, let's do something again. Let's do something next year to bring people back, which is really pretty cool.
And they loved it, and they've been a big supporter of everything we do, and are gracious enough to have us out at their events and let us talk to all these new teachers that they've produced, and so they're going to do that September 20th. So keep an eye on the social media. I think we're going to look at doing or have done emails and so forth.
And I'm going to put a call out. I go through the alumni ranks, and I see a good number of our alumni that are out there in education that have risen, and I say, really have risen to the ranks of assistant principal, superintendents of school districts. If you're one of those and you're listening, we'd love to see you come back to that event.
Yeah.
It really shows, that here's somebody that graduated from here and had risen, up the ranks. And I think that's, if nothing less, inspirational to some of the younger, because these events, Charlene and Dr. Doug always do a great job of bringing students' involvement. When they see, hey, here's somebody who went from, teaching, principal, or assistant principal, eventually on to superintendent. So that's my challenge. If you're one of those, we want to see you at that event.
Yeah. Reach out and keep an eye on that, or reach out to David or I,
Yeah.
and we'll make sure you get that information. Kind of concurrently with that event, since we partner real well together, will be the kickoff celebration for the new geosciences department.
Yeah.
As well. That'll be still a brunch sort of thing. Geography, geology, environmental science, GIS,
And
all
I think,
coming together.
And I think too that also has kind of been an outsprout of the 50th.
Yes,
And then
very much so.
then we did what was it, homecoming last year? We had a group get together. Was it the same?
That was the same exact
group,
kind of
not
structure.
The, yeah,
it
not
was the 50th
combined group.
anniversary.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was social
yeah.
science proper.
Yeah. Right,
This
right.
is to celebrate the fact that these departments that have kind of always been separated by a little bit of distance physically in the building, a little bit of the nature of social science versus natural science, looking at the world, said, you know what, we can do better working together. And everyone's come together and embraced the idea. And we have a great set of faculty between myself and Dr. Johansson and Chris Kokenauer and Mitzi Shaney and Ahmad Masasadi and Ryan Kerrigan and all the other folks that make the department up, and we want to celebrate the fact that we're coming together.
So when you come to that event, you may see alum that were not, they'd be new alum because of the combination of the. Am I correct?
Everyone who's an alum, the way we're treating it internally as the department is, if you're an alum of these departments, it doesn't matter. You're now part of the new
So
geosciences
you may
family.
meet new people that weren't in your group when you graduated.
Yeah. This is all years, and everyone's welcome from the folks that remember who took my Earth and People course last year to the people who remember Bill Corey and Bill Bryce and all those names that are generational legends on campus.
Absolutely.
So both events are kind of a brunch thing. September 20th, followed by our normal operations of if you want to do campus tours and anything else, we're going to be there from the alumni perspective to help out and kind of make it a cool event.
Absolutely. And the food is always good.
Yeah, food's always really good.
Food's always good and plentiful. They do a great job down
I think it's fun with the food because we kind of defer to Charlene over in Educate, and she's like on it. She's really good about it. She knows
what she likes.
She picks good stuff. So
knows what she likes.
Well, today's summer series takes us back to visit Karen Esaias.
Cool.
Karen is retired United States Air Force and has spent a lot of time around the university. The name may be familiar.
Yeah.
Her mom was longtime campus nurse.
Yeah, so it makes sense. Yeah, so let's be clear.
Yes.
This is
This
the
is-
daughter.
This is
Yeah. the daughter.
But if you know the name, it's her daughter. She did actually just recently passed. I think
Correct.
since this interview.
Not
so.
the daughter. The
No,
mother.
no. But Karen's still around, and she's running her own company now, and has a bunch of really cool stories. So let's go listen to that interview.
Cool.
Today we're joined by Karen Esaias here on the podcast. Karen, thanks for coming up and sitting with us for a little bit of time here today.
Oh, thanks for inviting me, Matt.
Karen, you and I think is kind of fun because you and I share a little bit of an alumni legacy here where we are second generation at Johnstown people.
Yep.
My dad working here, and you had that same experience. You want to talk about that?
Well,
first?
actually, I have it on both sides. Both of my parents. My father was a UPJ alum down on Asphalt campus, and then when he came back and had the GI Bill, he graduated as an engineer from Pitt, Maine. But my mom worked here at UPJ. She was the director of the health service, Karen Esaias, and she was here for, 18 years or something, in the basement of Hickory Hall, her favorite place. She actually moved it to the student union right before she retired. But
Yeah. That was actually a very interesting thing when we had talked about you coming for this this week to sit with us at our alumni meeting. Some of the alumni on the board from that time. I know that name.
yeah, exactly.
Wait, I know that name. And then it kind of clicked.
Exactly. She was a big part of the campus, and she loved the students, and she worked for Dean Schaefer, and so she got to know a lot of people over that time.
Absolutely.
And got the dedication of the yearbook one of her last years, too.
We may even have that yearbook here
I
someplace.
imagine you do. I do.
That's fantastic. That's probably why you chose to come to UPJ?
Yeah, that's exactly why. I mean, I'm a local girl, so I grew up just down the road, but when my parents, when I was looking at schools and applying to different schools, my mom was already working here, and so financially, the staff scholarship that I received, which covered 90% of my tuition, sort of came into play, and basically my parents said, you know, if you take this staff scholarship, we'll pay for you to live on campus, because I really wanted to not, I had looked forward to the living on campus life. And so when I applied to IUP and some of the other schools that I applied to, that's what I had in mind. So that was the bargain I struck with my parents.
It works out well. What did you end up getting your degree in?
In business and economics. It was the first, my year, I believe, was the first year it was offered, the 4-year degree.
Okay. Where did that lead you career-wise?
Well, interesting question, and part of that is what I ended up doing for my career, which was 27 years in the United States Air Force and retiring from that. But before that, when I graduated from UPJ with business and economics, I moved to Virginia Beach, which probably wasn't the best place to look for a job since it's flooded with military spouses and whatnot. But so I started to job hunt, and then as I was going for job interviews, I kept walking past the recruitment office located strategically there beside the employment agency. And so one day I went in, and since my father had served in the Air Force, I went to the Air Force recruiter first, and he sort of said, well, take the test and, go and see and here's what your options are. You don't have to decide right now, but with your degree, you can come in as an officer and go through officer training school for 90 days. And so when I looked at the options, my first choice was some kind of an intel field, but those were full initially when I went in 1980. And so rather I selected, it was called manpower engineering. And actually, my business degree did prepare me for that. That what they do for the Air Force is they assess how many people any work center needs to do their job. Okay. And that's done based on developing an algebraic equation. So I'm one of the few people that I know that actually used algebra in real life. So
they do exist.
They do exist. We're few and far between, but they do exist. And then later, I cross-trained into the Air Force Office of Special Investigations.
And that's where you spend most of your time.
I spent most of the 27 years, and that's where I retired from.
And knowing you've served pretty much all over the world.
True.
That's neat. So you took that little piece of Pitt Johnstown with you.
With me everywhere I went. That's
neat. Where after that retirement, what did you do? What are you doing now, I guess?
Well, I moved back to Johnstown about 12 years ago now. Hard to believe. Time does fly. But Johnstown, despite having traveled all over the world, Johnstown was always one of my very favorite places, and so I was thrilled and anxious to come back here. I had to sort of negotiate with my husband, who grew up mostly in Georgia, and complained about the winters when we were stationed in Washington, D.C. So when I first talked about moving back home, and my mother needed some help at that time, and so when I talked about moving home, I sort of had to promise him a snowblower and a fireplace in the negotiation, but it worked out because he came with me and he loves it here as well.
That's great. And you actually are running your own company now.
Yes. When I first retired from the Air Force, I started a small company with my husband's help to do genealogy, and I loved that. And being back home, it was fascinating. Got to see and do a lot of local historic genealogy research with Cambria County and the library downtown. But more recently, my husband, in 2020, he's the entrepreneur of the group, and he came to me and said, well, I was reading Entrepreneur magazine this morning, and who does that, first of all? But he said, and I was looking at the top 5 franchises under $10,000 buy-in, and I started listening, and then he said, and one of them's a travel agency, and it's the largest travel agency franchise company in the country. It's called Dream Vacations. So we started doing a little research, and we discovered that they are veteran friendly, and so our buy-in was 40% discounted for veterans. I called some of their veteran franchise owners around the country and said, okay, what do you think? And so got really, really positive feedback about the support from the company and all that stuff, and the training, et cetera, and the interplay. And so in 2020, at the end of, well, the first end of COVID, I guess, we were debating about the timing of starting our travel agency, and we thought, well, if we start it now, when people are able to travel, we'll have all of our, studies and our suppliers, all the research you have to do under our belt, and then we'll know what we're doing. So we bought it in December 2020, and so that's what we've been doing for the last 4 years, is sending people on their dream vacations all over the world. So just planning one for one of my girlfriends, I think I mentioned to you earlier, Matt, one of my roommates from up here at UPJ, she and her husband now live in Texas, and we're sending them on a cruise to India next March.
That's really neat, and it's always fun working with you on projects, and whether it's been some pit stuff or stuff outside of the university, knowing you for the last probably over 4 years now. We're thinking about
Right.
the timing of
Right.
next Tuesday's election.
Right.
I never know when I'm going to get a message from you or a text from you, because sometimes it's a quick answer to a question, then followed by a picture of you guys on a boat in Venice or
Yes,
something.
yes,
It's like,
yeah.
here's my hotel room, and I'm looking outside here, and I'm like,
Yeah.
campus is very
Well,
pretty.
that's nice, yeah.
No gondolas, but
Right. We have been able to travel quite a bit since we started the business, and just places that we want to go, and in some cases in most cases we learn a lot for future clients that we can share with them as what to do and what not to do. Like, don't go to Rome in June.
a little warm,
Too hot.
too hot.
Too hot, too crowded.
See, these are things that are good to know.
Exactly.
I
good to
appreciate
know.
that as a geography major.
Indeed.
And it's something that we're going to be hopefully engaging with you more and more, and potentially even offering some alumni opportunities with you for our alumni out there. So if anyone is interested, keep an eye on our social media and our emails and so forth on that deal. What would you classify? So we have this wide range of history, of military service, of owning your own business. What lessons do you think that came from your time here at Pitt Johnstown that carried forth, either academically or just things you picked up because of being here, that kind of to this day you think, wow, I still remember that from then, that I picked that up from a class or experience?
Well, for one thing, there are a lot of them, and we probably, even though I just found out what a podcast was, probably don't have time to go into all of them. But I'm looking out your window and I'm seeing the mountain cat, and which, by the way, I failed to mention that my other connection here at UPJ is Ed Sherlock, who was the athletic director up here for a number of years and came up with the mountain cat idea when we weren't allowed to use the Pitt Panther anymore. So I'm looking at it and liking it. But the number of lessons learned here, the socialization. I was involved in a sorority and got a lot out of that, and probably found
What sorority?
Omega Alpha Tau. It no longer exists here, I understand, but it was founded 2 years before I came by Lee Alfieri and Kim. Anyway, so I joined that sorority with one of my roommates, Kim Newell, and I think one of the things that travels through that is I've always been a sociable person. I like to be part of a team. I think I liked it here at UPJ, whether it was in a class or whether it was in a social group. I like to be part of a team, and that's certainly what you do in the military, and that carries through real well. I have a nephew who's in the Navy now, despite my best
I was going to say,
efforts to get him in the Air Force. Yes, fell in love, blah, 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 whatever.
Knowing you and knowing worked
Right.
with our mutual friend Doug over the years, you're
Yeah.
protective of the
Yeah.
air, and like the Air Force a lot.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we
I was
do.
curious what kind of family pressure you put on that one.
As much as I possibly could, and it didn't work. But everybody takes their own path, as you know, Matt. So, but a lot of lessons go through one of the classes that I took. Two are very memorable to me for different reasons. I had Dr. Clark Strasser for statistics, and I loved statistics. My brain worked that way. It's a logic. It's working it through to its conclusion. Just to completely date myself, since we haven't said what year I graduated or anything,
I was leaving it to you.
which was 79, by the way. Joined the Air Force in 80. But Dr. Clark Strasser came in, and if you knew Dr. Strasser, which many people did, because he was here for a number of years and sort of a fixture and sports support and all that, he was very proper. You would have thought him English if you hadn't known that he wasn't. He dressed with, the elbows on his tweed jackets and all that.
Yeah,
and,
love the look.
And so in 1976, he came into class the morning after the presidential election when Jimmy Carter was elected president. And on his way to the front of the classroom, he said, "Good morning, y'all." And I, of course, cracked up. I think I was the only one that laughed or got it or had the nerve to laugh. I don't know which. But statistics and Clark Strasser did me in good stead through my career. And that I became an investigator in the Air Force Offices of Special Investigations. And that, in my mind, and actually what I'm in genealogy as well, you're solving mysteries. You're putting one step ahead and making sure you know what you're doing, and it's a logic that you follow, and that has worked well for me. So that level of organization in my brain, I think, had something to do with his instruction. The other piece, the other instructor, was Miss Dr. Duca, who taught me Spanish. I've used Spanish. I took 4 years of Spanish, and then they sent me to the Defense Language Institute to study Spanish, and then the Air Force sent me to Spain, and then later sent me to the U.S. Army School of the Americas at Fort Benning, Georgia, where I met my husband. So things like learning Spanish so I can move ahead in the Air Force, use that language, and now as a travel agent,
Sure.
hablamos español, so we do. And so, yeah, I don't want to cherry pick, but the other piece of that was my mom worked on this campus my 4 years. So, and everybody called her mom. And so, how's mom, she knew all these kids that went, especially the kids that lived in Hickory Hall. They knew her. In fact, before I came to UPJ, she had 8 of them, I think, to our house for dinner. And we've had spaghetti in the basement on card tables, but it was fun, and that helped ease me into my transition into college, because those guys knew my face, and if I was doing anything or looking, askance, they'd, "Everything okay, Karen?" And so it was. I have good memories of this place.
That's mirrors so much my own experience as well, where it wasn't revolutionary. It was a
Right.
transition.
Right. Exactly.
Because you kind of knew the people, and
Yep.
and I think I hear so many from the students that I get to teach
Sure.
that they kind of feel that here still.
Right.
It just, even if they're not quite
Right.
comfortable, the more they start to realize, oh, it's nice. It's a small environment. It's tight knit. It kind of builds that.
And I had first come back to Johnstown, I had only been back, I think, 2 years when UPJ approached me and inducted me into the Hall of Fame. I was the third person inducted into UPJ's Hall of Fame. The first one was Jack Murtha. The second one I can't remember, but a very impressive resume. I remember thinking, I'm not sure. Are you guys sure? Are you really sure that you mean that? But we had they did a beautiful dinner on the stage, in the theater.
Oh,
That-
this was the Distinguished Alumni.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to meet a fellow distinguished. Mine was in 18.
Yeah.
As the young
So
alumni.
that was, that's quite an honor.
You
But
can see that the trend has been going. I'm going to say I bottomed out the curve, and it's been going back up ever
indeed.
since.
No, that was, they had just started that then, and the Alumni Association was just, getting its feet on the ground, and I was very honored by it, and it was nice to be here again, and nice to be surrounded by people that I like.
Well, that's great. You talk about your time here as a student and what that meant. What do you if we walk out of here after today, heading back to the car? Talk to a student. What are you telling that student? One thing that you can piece of advice that you wish you had known when you were in that position as a student.
Well, I guess most students that come right out of high school. Now, they don't all come right out of high school. And in fact, some of your veteran students have had a lot of life lived before they came here. But in my case, I came right out of high school. And you don't, at that age, I think, appreciate, how short life is or can be. And that friendships are important and can last a lifetime. And the knowledge you gain here can change your life. We didn't have the nursing program. We had the engineering program. But that's how you make life choices, right? And I came to UPJ not knowing what I wanted to do when I grew up, literally. I frankly graduated from UPJ not knowing what I wanted to do when I grew up, although business felt comfortable to me. My mom, we have a lot of nurses in my family, my mother and my sister. My sister's a hospice nurse. And
Amazing, by the way.
yeah,
Your sister.
she is amazing.
I have to give her credit for helping me out when I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
so sick.
Yeah, she's superb at what she has done and what she continues to do just now, in this case, for Friends. So, but they didn't have the nursing program, but the education here has always been first rate. I mean, my father brought us up here when they opened the campus. It was an open house, and we came to that. I'm sure I was in maybe junior high, if that. But I was impressed, and of course it's beautiful, so there's that. But for a student, now here's a little piece of advice that I don't know if most professors would like hearing this, so you can cut it. It can be on the cutting room floor mat if you don't like it. But come in strong. Come in strong, and I say that because when I started UPJ, my first term, I got all A's. My second term, I got all A's. And then the professors think of you as a smart student, and they give you credit. If you have sort of an off day or an off test or something like that, they know it was an off day. So they sort of give you the benefit of the doubt. Whereas if you come in like, woohoo, here I am, free at last, and that may not be the case. So my advice would be come in strong and press your professors right out of the gate, and they'll have your back.
Neat. We got you in this week for this Wednesday because of Veterans Day. Well, because also you're an alumni and a fantastic part of this community. But timing-wise was Veterans Day. What do you think of with Veterans Day? What do you want to leave the folks who listen to this podcast about with that, as both somebody from this campus as well as a veteran? Spent almost 30 years in the service.
Well, Veterans Day is very important for everyone, for the country. If you happen to be in Johnstown, come to the parade on 11th, always on the 11th at 4 o'clock, Main Street. You'll see me there. But Veterans Day and the days leading up to Veterans Day is a time to honor those who have served. Memorial Day is for those who have died. Armed Forces Day is for those that are on active duty. But Veterans Day is to honor those who have served in uniform, all of them, all branches of the service. Now that there are 5 or 6 of them, depending on how you count them. But these are men and women who have given their time, in some cases given their lives, to defend what our Constitution says. That's what we say. We swear to defend the Constitution of the United States. We're not political, or hopefully shouldn't be. We are here to defend the Constitution of the United States, and everyone in every branch of the service swears to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So that's what your armed forces have done for you. That's what your veterans have done, and that's what they continue to do. These are challenging times at best. And so you look to your veterans and do more than, thank you for your service. Encourage service. Encourage those that you happen to be in your neighborhood that happen to deploy with a guard unit or whatever. Watch out for their wives or husbands, spouses, children while they're out of the country. Help them any way you can. The number of percentage of our population that serves their country is very low, very low. It used to be, World War II time, it was, 50% or something like that. Now it's like 2 or 3. And that makes a difference in how people think, and how people react and how people vote, frankly. And so keep an eye out for your veterans. Thank them and mean it. I would like to see some kind of universal service. I think that everybody in this country should have a choice. It doesn't have to be in the military, but my opinion is that everybody should have some period of service for their country because they owe it to their country. So, but in this case, it's Veterans Day. It's a big deal. 11/11/11, the armistice of World War I. And so at that time, on that day, think about veterans you have known. Most of you have them in your families. Having done genealogy, I know a high number in our area have, you look back 1 or 2 generations is all, and you will see, I had 3 great-grandfathers that served in the Civil War, grandfather in World War I, father and 2 uncles from Wimber in World War II. So you don't have to look far, and then me and my nephew. And so it goes.
It's a good message, and you said the parade, as always, is on the 11th, downtown.
Main Street, 4 o'clock.
Main Street.
Come out, wave a flag.
This might be the hardest one. If you had to pick one memory that's your favorite from your time here, what would that be?
That one's very hard because I have so many good memories. Probably graduation. It was a beautiful day in May, and my parents and my sister were here. I have pictures with my roommates and my sorority sisters, and I was a little sister in Delta Sigma Chi, and so those guys, everybody turned out. It was a beautiful day, and it was the crown for my 4 years. So while I would say there are other ones that are probably more personal or more emotional, that one was, I made it. Mm-hmm. I came here for a reason. I learned a lot here. I loved it here. So therefore, I would say graduation.
Very. Karen, thanks for coming and spending some time with us. If folks wanted to learn more about your business, where can we send them?
On vacationtoday.com.
Thank you. Karen, thanks for coming up and spending time with us.
Thank you, Matt. You do a great job. You're my favorite podcaster.
I'm your only podcaster.
You're my only podcaster.
Little
but my favorite.
Behind the curtains. this first episode that was released last week was the first episode of a podcast you told me you
Ever
would ever
heard.
listen to. So you went from,
And she did a lovely job as well.
we'll let Kim know, it'll make her horribly embarrassed. So you went from not knowing 2 weeks ago what
Right,
a podcast was
right.
to listening to your first one to being on your first one in this
That's
2
because
weeks
I know
span.
you Metzer now.
We're trying real hard.
You're trying to drag me into the future. Got it.
Karen, thank you again.
Thanks, Matt.
The Tuck Shop podcast is recorded live on the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown campus. Update your contact information with us by visiting johnstown.pitt.edu/alumni. Connect with us online via Facebook and LinkedIn, or consider donating to the university at give2, that's giveto.pitt.edu/giveupj.
This has been a production of Quantum Wave Media. Views expressed do not necessarily reflect the opinion of the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown.